Hello, my name is Ethan Hewlin. Like you, I live in a world that never stops moving. Also, like you, I have stories. These are my stories, the true stories of a tryhard. Welcome back to True Stories of a Tryhard. I am Ethan Hewlin, and this week we are talking self-improvement. Now, I know that may seem a bit redundant considering the point of this show. At least the episodes I do by myself are to improve oneself, specifically one's own mental health. But I feel like it's important to kind of address the bigger picture because, in general, what is self-improvement? The actual definition is developing a person's capabilities and potential. Now, I understand that what exactly that looks like for everyone is not a one-size-fits-all situation, and that everyone can have their own pace as well as their own method of getting to a more improved self. As far as what that looks like, that's more up to you than anything else. As I've discussed before on this show, goals are something that's very important to keep in mind. And what your goals are will depend on several things. Where you are in your life, where you are in the many journeys and paths that you are metaphorically taking. But I can only speak for myself. So let's do that. One area that I'm currently seeking to improve is my ability to communicate. I know, shocking, the host of a podcast wants to be better at communicating, but the improvement to communication affects a bunch of different areas of my life. For one, even though I plug it every week at the end of this show, I'm not super good about getting the word out on social media besides the automated tweets that Podbean puts out for me. I know, a little behind the scenes for you there. Podbean will automatically tweet out whenever a new episode is up. But that's just one thing, because I want to reach as many people as possible. Because I believe that my message is something that is worthy of being heard. It's just that I don't always have the time or the energy to really give it as much thought as I want to. And that's not the only area of my life that this is affecting, because even in my interpersonal relationships with people that I know quite well, I'm not always super great about getting back to them. I have all the best intentions of doing so. It's just that I have a little list in my brain of things I need to do. And if by chance I see, oh, this person texted me, my brain goes, I thought about what I'm going to text them, therefore it has already been done. And my brain will check that box even though it hasn't been checked yet. Or I'll just leave people on read or seen or whatever you want to call it for hours at a time because I have something sitting in the ready to send text box, but I haven't actually sent it yet. I also get distracted by other things quite easily. And when I do get distracted, I forget about things I was supposed to do. And when that happens, I don't really go back to what I needed to do. In this instance, texting somebody back without some sort of external stimulus, like somebody reminding me, a reminder on my phone, or in some cases, existential dread. I know that may seem like a bit of an exaggeration, but there are definitely times where I have anxiety about not texting somebody back because of how I think they'll react. Or sometimes I won't text somebody back because I'm afraid of how they'll react. Or I won't tell people things because I'm afraid of how they'll react. Basically, I'm afraid of how people will react if I have an opinion about anything. Because so much of my life and a lot of people my age, their lives are on the internet for everyone to look at and get a view, a window, or some sort of opening into how we think, how we feel, how we are without actually ever meeting us. And I, like a lot of other people, are prone to judge very quickly. I can know absolutely nothing about one person, but by seeing the bumper stickers on the back of somebody's car, or reading their Instagram bio, or seeing a tweet that they posted, I can basically, in my mind, say, I have everything I need to know about this person already in my head. When in reality, there's probably a lot more to them than I thought. There's a lot more nuance in the world than some people think there is. And as much as I would like the world to be black and white, this or that, up or down, it's not always that way. In fact, most of the time, it's the exact opposite. A lot of the world is in shades of gray, and how light or dark it is depends on the situation. And that's something that I've only realized as I've gotten older and had more life experience. Because believe me, I would love to have things be simple. But when you try to make that complicated thing simple, bad things happen. Wrapping it back around, communication is one of those things that is very complicated. There's a lot of little things that make up the entirety of communication that are not entirely understood by me or a lot of people. And the main thing that I know I need to work on is consistency. Doing what I said I would do, i.e., getting back to people, with the frequency that I promised, which later should mean within the next 24 hours as opposed to a week from now. The first step to solving any problem is figuring out what the problem is. And now that I've figured that out, what am I going to do about it? Hey tryhards, Ethan here. I want to talk to you guys about Patreon. Patreon is a donation service, a monthly subscription service where you donate money to me to support the show, to support the growth of it, whether that means merchandise or more podcasts or other things of that nature. And I would really appreciate if you guys would be willing and able to give just a little bit of whatever extra money you may have. Because while the show will always be free for everyone to listen, the way to make it isn't. And I'm in college, and things are expensive. So I'd appreciate any little amount that you're able to give. So thank you for donating, and thank you even more for listening. So now that I've established what my problem is, how do I fix it? That's the next big thing that needs to be tackled. What you do to fix your problem entirely depends on what it is. In my instance, communication can require several different things. But for this particular instance, it would be a vigilant check of my text messages, emails, IMs, DMs, etc. So that way, if someone needed to get a hold of me right away, that their response that they expect is delivered in a timely manner. Because they have expectations of me to do what I'm supposed to do. I have expectations of myself of what I'm supposed to do. And I have expectations of them to respond in kind. So why wouldn't I give them the same treatment that I would want them to give me? Bit of golden rule out there for you. Do unto others what you would want them to do to you. Now, after you've established what you need to do, and figuring out what that is, the final step is the follow-through. And that's where a lot of people struggle. After figuring out what the problem is, how to fix it, and how to implement it, then comes the hardest part, actually doing it. And that's kind of what a lot of people, myself included, struggle with the most. Because doing the thing requires effort. Crazy, I know. But most good things in life come from putting effort into them. Whether it's homemade food or a well-mowed lawn or a chair that you built from IKEA, there's a certain amount of satisfaction that comes from putting effort into something. And at the end of the day, you can look back and say, I did this, and I was successful. I knew what I needed to do. I had a plan to do it. I knew exactly how to do it, and I did it. And the best way to keep making sure that you do it, following through that is to have somebody else hold you accountable. Now, I know that it may seem strange to people that asking somebody to hold you accountable can seem, in some instances, like a moment of weakness. I know, at least in my case, that has been how it is for quite some time. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do is learn how to ask for help. Because, as I've said before, it took me a while to realize that I will never know everything. A lot of you who may be new to this show, who haven't binged everything in my catalog of the other 80-something episodes I put out at this point, are probably thinking, yeah, you're never going to know everything, Ethan. Why is that not obvious to you? Well, there was a point in my life where I thought if I put enough time and effort and at some point money into it, I could know everything. And I'd be able to help everybody. But the long and short of it is, I'm not going to be able to do that. And asking for accountability is a form of asking for help. Which is why it was so hard for me to do that, because I've always thought of myself as a relatively self-motivated person. I've worked out by myself for a couple of years now. Haven't really had another partner since I was in my high school weights class. And for the most part, I've turned out all right. And I'm getting better. But that's a whole different discussion. My point is, having someone else hold you accountable for something that you may not necessarily be good at or fully understand is one thing that can lead to better self-improvement. Because practice doesn't necessarily make perfect, but it does make consistent. However you practice something, that's how you're going to approach it when it's outside of that practice time. For example, if I am learning how to shoot a three-pointer, for those of you who like basketball, and I only shoot from one point along the three-point line, I'm only going to make it the most if I reach that point. Whereas if I go all around that three-point line from any angle, I am more likely to be successful. So having multiple sources and good practice will inevitably help you succeed, because practicing well leads to good results. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week to True Stories of a Tryhard. You can find me on Instagram at ethan.t.hulen. That is Hulen. You can find the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at True Stories Pod, if I remember to post there, which I hopefully will, because I'm constantly scolding myself about how I don't do it. The best way to get the word out about podcasts is via word of mouth and social media. So please, please, please share this with your friends, share it on your social media, and if you post it in some way and tag me, you will get featured on the official podcast accounts. And please feel free to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I would very much appreciate it. I'll be back with more stories next week. So until then, this is Ethan Hulen, signing off.